Thank you for joining us this evening here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant, so let's get to it. So we want to get to the ongoing search for Nancy Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie is the mother of Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie. So today we learned from the FBI that the FBI is looking for a man who is 5'9" to 5'10" with an average build and who was wearing an Ozark Trail backpack on Nancy Guthrie's porch the night she disappeared. So new details tonight. Let's get now to NBC with the latest on this case.
Every bit of potential evidence collected within miles of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie's home counts as investigators chase down connections on each thing they find. President Trump this morning weighing in on the investigation, which this weekend enters its second week.
It was a local case originally, and they didn't want to let go of it, which is fine. It's up to them. It's really up to the community. But ultimately, when the FBI got involved, I think, progress has been made.
Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos firing back against claims of tension between his office and the FBI.
There's so many leads. They generated 14,000 in the first 10 days. We generated 18,000. We need each other, and that's really, so there's no ego here as to who's leading it. Right now, it is a state case. We're handling it, but we can't do this by ourselves. We know that. So we need their help.
And while we know at least one pair of gloves has been found and processed, the sheriff says many others also have been found and put into evidence.
So you go and you get them, and then you prioritize. Well, this one's about 10 miles away.
Yeah.
Maybe we can hold off on that. Let's do the one that's 1 or 2 miles away. That kind of thinking.
And what we do know about the person seen on the doorbell camera at Nancy Guthrie's door the morning of her disappearance, male, average build between 5'9" and 5 feet 10 inches tall, wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker Pack backpack. Now, following those thousands of tips received so far, investigators know just one may lead to a break and some answers. As neighbors continue to hope Nancy Guthrie will see this outpouring of yellow ribbons and flowers, hope she'll finally come home. Jennifer.
All right, so that was the latest from NBC. Again, suspect details released today from the FBI. Also, DNA collected. The sheriff tonight said the authorities are working to identify whose DNA collected, whose DNA was that was collected on Guthrie's property, and who that DNA obviously, again, belongs to. Now, the sheriff said it was not from Guthrie or someone in close contact with her. That's according to the Pima County Sheriff's Office. Speaking of the Pima County Sheriff, NBC did a one-on-one interview on the latest when it comes to this case. Here's that one-on-one with NBC's Liz Kreutz.
Those things develop.
Do you believe that any of those gloves could be the gloves we saw the person in the surveillance video wearing?
You know, that work is being done. I cannot, we would never eliminate it unless there was something that our labs would tell us, yeah, this isn't what you're doing.
Are you looking or interested in potentially a white truck?
You know, I've heard that. So again, I can't get into all those weeds. I know that we have gotten a lot of leads, information coming in about vehicles in the area that were concerning. We track every lead down. And so maybe I don't know who's got that, but somebody is working probably a lead that came in on, hey, this white truck was seen in the area. So, that's not the only vehicle that we've been told about in the area that looks suspicious. All of those things are being assessed.
Are you close to finding this person?
We think we're getting there. We think we're getting closer.
Like what, a day, 2, 3?
I mean,
we're day 13 now.
I know, but you know what? Some of these cases go for months. Some of these cases can go for years. We're prepared that whatever that time is, we're going to continue fighting it. We're going to get there. We will find this person. That we know.
So are you at that point where you think it could go on that long?
I don't rule out anything. It's like I say, these things come in highs and lows. We get a lead, we get really excited, we're way up here, and then something says, okay, that's not the right lead, and we go back down. Now we get another lead, and it's what keeps us motivated. You got all these cops out there that want to find her, and they get excited. I wish you could have been with me in that comm room or that with the FBI and watching all those agents and detectives get all energized and charged up when they thought they had this could be it. And you see their faces and then when they realize maybe not, look, they're tough guys, tough gals. They're going to get there.
What was it that allowed that court order? What was it that you potentially had on that person in Rio Rico that allowed the court order search?
There were several things there, and I can't get into that.
Have you totally written that person off?
You know, that's the thing is everybody wants to know have we eliminated anybody? You don't eliminate people. What you do is you go and investigate that lead up until a point in time where you realize that, okay, maybe there's an alibi. Maybe there's in this case, we believe he was a delivery man. He was in the area for a reason. Okay. But that doesn't mean we're ending. That doesn't mean he's completely eliminated.
What other evidence? You said several pieces of evidence, gloves. What else has been found?
Oh, I'm not, again, I can't go in there. All I'm saying is we're getting some great leads based on a lot of calls, a lot of people tipping, but also on that video we have, the picture you have.
Do you expect there'll be more surveillance video to come out?
I hope so. That's why you see a push. We're making another push today with Ring and all those people with their home cameras, because we're actually extending that, I think. I think we asked at first probably for that time frame we knew that existed, and then we took it out further. We're asking for
Right. Why January 11th? What were investigators asking about that day? In particular?
they have a reason. I don't know that, but I know that they have a valid reason for that date.
When asked about surveillance camera, though, do you expect more surveillance video to come out from Nancy's home?
Boy, I hope so. We'll see. We've submitted it all.
You're working with the tech company still?
And yeah, we've asked them, and they're working as best they can.
Is there anything else you can tell us about this suspect? Because some of the things that's, we have the height and the, average sort of build, but those are pretty generic. Do we know hair color or race or anything like that?
You have the same video I have. That's all we have.
Do you believe that maybe this person purchased the backpack recently?
No, I don't know that. I have no way of knowing that.
Okay, and I assume you guys have been in touch with Walmart to figure out?
There's all kinds of investigative efforts into all of that.
How many leads have you gotten since the video was released?
So I'm going to go back, I think 2 days ago we were up to 18,000 here, and the FBI was up to about, I think they said 14,000.
Since the video has been released, have you seen an increase in substantial
We saw
leads?
when that video was released, within a matter of hours, we went up about 4,500 more leads.
Do you believe someone out here in the Tucson area knows who that person is?
I do believe that. I do. We have told the community, somebody out there is, I think Savannah said, somebody out there knows this person. Somebody out there has information on this. We need that.
I guess it's just, what is your message to the community that is saying 13 days on now and there's no suspect, no person of interest, no vehicle of interest?
We have over 400 cops out there working 24/7, every day, every night. Please call with every bit of information you can. Help us help Nancy. It really is just that. We can't do this alone. And so if you get a Ring request from Ring or somebody, please look at those things and send that to us. If you get a request from somebody knocking on your door, please help us with this. Somebody does know this person. We need to identify that man.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, how do you respond to this report that says that you are not working with the FBI and holding back evidence?
Yeah. I've said from the beginning, and actually even at our last press conference, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department are connected at the hip. That has not changed. Decisions are made sometimes with a good discussion about why things need to go one way or the other. In this instance, it really was about, and it's not just this. We're going to use a judge for a search warrant. Do we do a federal judge or do we do a state judge? We have a discussion. What's the best way to do that? And decisions are made. They're really not my decisions. They are our team's decisions. They get together and they talk about what they think is best. In this case of blocking evidence from the FBI, that's just so far from the truth. What happens is we processed our crime scene, took all of our evidence. That morning, it wasn't days later that we contacted that morning, we contacted the FBI. We said, hey, we've got some digital analysis that you guys could really help with. They said, Sheriff, whatever you want. We gave that to them. The rest of the evidence we sent to our lab. This is a lab we've been using for 30, 40 years now. They may be in Florida, I don't know, maybe they were in Phoenix at the time we got them, I don't know that. But this lab is, again, so many corporate companies have come to us and said, Sheriff, tell us what you need, pro bono. They're not charging us anything. So the $200,000, I have not a clue. But what I would tell you is this. The FBI and us sit down at tables and we discuss things. Hey, I've got this mission up in Rio Rico. We've got a search warrant. Who should we do? State. We've got a SWAT team. You want our SWAT team? Their SWAT team. There's no egos there. We sit and discuss what's the best option. The DNA. If you had, God forbid, something happened in your home, we're going to go and process it. We're going to take markers and get profiles on what we believe could have DNA. But we're also going to take buccal swabs of you and your family and your friends that have been there to eliminate, right? So in this case, all of that evidence, day one, went to our lab. We now come back 10 days further, there's gloves found. So FBI says, okay, so should we send them to the FBI lab? I said, no, let's send it all to our lab, because why would you want to have evidence over here and all the markers, if you will, for elimination over here? It's just adding a step to it. Let's just keep it all in one place. Our lab does good work. Their lab does good work. They both are capable. Let's just, to eliminate that, okay, this lab has, oh, we've got a marker. Can you send us your eliminations? Or vice versa. Can you send us yours and we'll eliminate for you? It doesn't make sense. It's just we talked to the FBI, they said, yep, makes sense, thanks, Sheriff, and we move on to the next problem.
So you're basically saying this is maybe one person that had a problem with it, but you feel like...
You know, you got 400 officers out there working together. They're not always going to see eye to eye. Some of them are going to think, and they may be right, but somewhere at a certain level, those discussions are had, and we weigh it out, and we go. We keep going.
Yeah. Are you not are you sharing the results?
Everything.
With FBI?
Absolutely, and they are with us.
Okay.
The videos that came from their submittal to a company, they came back, they share it with us. People thought, oh, you had those videos forever. I think we had them for about 2 hours, and we submitted them to the media and said, wow, we need your help, because that has really given us quite a lot of leads and advantage on this, and we're hoping we've got some good leads today that we're working on that we hope pan out.
Who is currently leading this investigation?
We are. It is an effort. It is a team effort.
We who?
We, the sheriff and the FBI.
Okay.
We work step in step. John Edwards called me last night. He calls me every now and then. I call them. I was at their command post the other day when we were in Rio Rico. They've been at our command post. It is really, there's so many leads. They generated 14,000 in the first 10 days. We generated 18,000. We need each other, and that's really, so there's no ego here as to who's leading it. Right now, it is a state case. We're handling it, but we can't do this by ourselves. We know that. So we need their help.
Lead agency is Sheriff's Department with assistance from FBI? Or
yes, that's how this started. We asked the FBI 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock that morning, when we got done processing the scene, we turned to the FBI and said, hey, we're working this case. This is what we need from you. They said, anything at all, Sheriff, whatever you need. And now it's grown that, well, yeah, like I say, you got 400 cops out there working this.
Did you reach out to the FBI?
Did I? No. No, my team works with them all the time.
Okay, so the Sheriff's Department reached out. I think that was part of the report, that it said that like you guys didn't reach out and they reached out or something.
Yeah, I believe our team, after I got a brief, they said, yeah, FBI's going to help us with this. Well, great, and we'll do this, and we'll work. And once it got going, the FBI, Department of Public Safety in Phoenix, Tucson Police, our regional team, everybody said, Sheriff, what do you need?
Okay, I'm going to ask you about those gloves. You said, how many gloves were found?
I can't give you the numbers, but we found the first pair, I think, was a search team that went out. FBI, deputies, everybody, about 2 miles away. There's been some reporting that there was a glove in that. That is no.
There's no glove in the house.
Never was found a glove in that house.
Okay, was there a glove found closer to the property?
2 miles away is the closest we have.
And that's one pair of gloves.
One pair of gloves, I believe.
Is there another pair of gloves?
There's a lot of gloves.
How
But
many gloves?
We go out 5-10 miles, and as you expand that search, and let me say this, that's a lead we got. And we went in with that lead. I don't want to tell somebody, well, don't call us if it's 2.5 miles. We have to go and gather it all. And now it's really growing. But that's part of investigations like this. So you go and you get them, and then you prioritize. Well, this one's about 10 miles away.
Yeah.
Maybe we can hold off on that. Let's do the one that's 1 or 2 miles away. That kind of thinking. But that's all that is it's about all the leads come in, we develop evidence. Leads aren't just phone calls. Leads aren't just interviews. Leads can be from evidence, from things found, from searches, from search warrants served. All of those things develop.
Do you believe that any of those gloves could be the gloves we saw the person in the surveillance video wearing?
You know, that work is being done. I cannot, we would never eliminate it unless there was something that our labs would tell us, yeah, this isn't what you're doing.
Are you looking or interested in potentially a white truck?
You know, I've heard that. So again, I can't get into all those weeds. I know that we have gotten a lot of leads, information coming in about vehicles in the area that were concerning. We track every lead down. And so maybe I don't know who's got that, but somebody is working probably a lead that came in on, hey, this white truck was seen in the area.
All right, so let's head to break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. So President Donald Trump in Fayetteville today at Fort Bragg. So as that visit was happening, and I'm reading this from WREL News, a small plane was intercepted during President Trump's visit here to North Carolina. So a small plane was intercepted during President Donald Trump's visit to North Carolina after it entered the temporary flight restricted airspace Friday afternoon. First Lady Melania Trump was also here on that visit, I want to point out. Now, the couple visited Fort Bragg to honor members of the special forces who stormed into Venezuela and took Nicolas Maduro. Let's take you now to that speech in case you missed it.
I love that song. I must tell you. I was really referring to the song They turned it off. That's terrible, but that's all right. Honey, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Please. So we have an amazing group of people before me. Amazing. And very proud of you. Somebody said, I was just watching a little news coming down. They said, oh, it's amazing he can find the time in his busy schedule. Believe me, you're the time. My schedule's not the time. Although we do have a couple of interesting things happen. We just had fantastic reports on inflation, way down. Costs of products, way down. We inherited a mess, total mess, and now it's really coming along. We have the greatest numbers that we've ever had. We're hitting all-time high stock numbers. We're hitting all-time high S&P and Dow numbers. You saw that a few days ago at the end of the first year. They said that it was going to take maybe 4 years, the end of the term, to hit 50,000 on the Dow. We did it in 1 year. And likewise, to hit 7,000 on the S&P was going to take at least 4 years, could be 5 or 6. We did it in 1 year. So, and all I know is forget about the stock market, forget about Wall Street. Your 401ks are doing very well. I don't have to ask you. Is anybody doing poorly with their 401k? If they were, you're a pretty bad investor, I'll tell you. But I want to thank Melania. Our country is truly blessed to have such a phenomenal First Lady. And now she's a movie star on top. Can you believe? She did a movie. It's the hottest thing you've ever. It's crazy. Congratulations, by the way. Very good. You know who loves that movie? The ladies. They go see it 3, 4 times. That's what I heard. They go see it with the husband. Husband really likes it a lot, but the women go back and see it. But she's a great First Lady. And I'm thrilled to be back on one of the greatest and most celebrated military bases in the history of the world, Fort Bragg. We have your name back. We got your name back from the radical left. The radical left is not happy about it. It's another reason you have to vote for us, because they'll change it back to whatever it might be. This is the home of the legendary Green Berets, the home of the Sky Dragons, and the All-American 82nd Airborne. And in particular, I hear that we are joined by many exceptional soldiers from the 1st Brigade Combat Team, also known as the Devils in Baggy Pants. What's that all about? The Devils, they are devils. And you are devils, I will say. And I have no higher honor in life than to be your Commander-in-Chief. I'm so proud of you all. And so let me begin by saying a very, very big thank you to our great warriors and the men and women of the United States Army. Unbelievable. Very special thanks also to all of the incredible military families who are here today. You know, without that family, our soldiers would not be the same. It's a whole big deal. I don't think they get enough credit, but they do get credit with me. That's why I sent you 1776 a couple of weeks ago, a little while ago. We had a lot of money coming into our country from tariffs, and I said, let's send a little to our, so, you know, they came in, they said, sir, we can do 1,775. I said, oh, that's good. They put the number. I said, you know, if we add $1 more, it's 1776. I said, add $1. Add $1. Did everybody get 1776? I think so, right? You think the Democrats would have done that? Forget it. But it's really because of your incredible sacrifices to keep America safe and free. There's nobody more respected than the people in this room. We're also joined by General Gregory Anderson, General Brandon Tagmeyer, Secretary Howard Lutnick, Senator Ted Budd. He's doing a fantastic job, too. Members of Congress, Mark Harris, Pat Harrigan, Brad Knott, David Rouser, Addison McDowell, and your own congressman from right here in the district, a really great guy. He's a real leader, too. Richard Hudson, where are they? Where are they all? Look at them. They're all dressed up. They have to be nice to you, because without your vote, forget it. They're out of commission, right, fellas? But what a good job. And Richard, this is your area. Congratulations. He's always bugging me for more money for Fort Bragg. I said, Richard, get off my back. And we're going to do that. You know, they're talking about a big compound, right? And we're going to get that done. We're going to get it done for you. Now, if the Democrats get in, it's not going to happen, I guarantee you that. But we're going to get that done. That's your number one priority, I think. Richard Hudson. So you have another man who is running for the Senate, who is phenomenal. The only thing is he's not as well known. He was behind the scenes. He was the head of my 3 campaigns. I won all 3 times here by a lot. It wasn't even close. And he was responsible, along with Laura Trump. Laura is fantastic, born here and loves the area, but they work together. But Michael Whatley, if he's here, I don't know. Michael, will you come here for a second, please? He's running for the Senate. And if he gets in, you're going to be taken care of. If he doesn't get in, we're going to be stripping the military like they always do, the Democrats. This is a man who was the head of North Carolina. So he did so well that I said, who is that guy that did so well? Because when it came time to picking the head of the Republican Party, I picked him. And you saw what happened in the last election. We won in a landslide. We won every swing state, all 7 swing states. We won by millions of votes, the popular vote. You know, the first time I won, but they say I didn't win the popular vote. You know I did. I won it by a lot, but they said. And so every time they'd introduce Donald Trump, who didn't win the popular vote, but he, you know, whatever. I said, I don't ever want that to happen again. But we did. We won everything. And this is a man that was in charge of this state. He did so well here. There was nobody else that I even considered to run the RNC. That's the whole country. And we had a big victory just recently that you know very well, a victory like they've never seen. So I'd just like you to say a couple of words, Michael. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good to see you. In 2015, Donald Trump came down an escalator and said that he was going to make America great, that he was going to protect our country, that he was going to make sure that our men and women in uniform had what they needed to protect our interests and our allies around the world. And North Carolina stood up and said, that's our guy. And in his term in office, and in this term in office, there has never been a president who has fought for Fort Bragg, who has fought for the men and women in uniform in North Carolina, as well as our veterans, more and harder and better than Donald J. Trump, our 45th and 47th President of the United States of America. I am thrilled that he has asked me to run for Senate in North Carolina and is giving me an opportunity to represent you and to fight for you and every other base that we have in this great state to protect our interests, to make sure that America and our allies are going to be protected. Because the highest, most important function for any government is to keep its communities and its citizens safe. And we have the best president right now to do that. And I am honored to be with him today. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
And the word is he's doing really well. But when I heard they were taking the name Fort Bragg off, I said, no, they're kidding. That's not gonna do. They did. They took the name off. We got it back very quickly, but they took it off. And if we don't win the midterms, they'll take it off again. They'll take it off again. You can't let that happen. And this man is exceptional, I'll tell you right now. So with the help of everyone in this room, America is the strongest military on the face of the earth. We rebuilt it. We really did. We rebuilt it in my first term. We had a great first term. We had the best economy in history, but this is blowing it away. But we had a great economy in the first term. We did everything, but we really created a tremendous military. Now, some of it was given away, actually a lot, but small compared to what we did to Afghanistan. You remember that, where they left all the military equipment behind? We wouldn't have left anything. We were going to get out with dignity and strength, respect. We looked like we were running. We don't run from anybody. That was a Biden embarrassment. What a terrible president. But we came back and we already have rebuilt our military to stronger than it was even then. And we don't leave equipment behind. We don't leave jets behind. I said, why do you leave those jets behind? Sir, I thought it was cheaper to leave it behind. You know, $150 million plane. All they had to do is put a little jet fuel in there and fly it to wherever they want to fly it. These people were the worst. And we can't let it happen again. Our military, if the Democrats get in, will be severely misserved. but we rebuilt it in my first term, and now we're making it stronger and bigger and better than ever before. The recruiting is through the roof. You know that after years of recruiting shortfalls, as an example, new enlistments have soared to record highs. We had, a year and a half ago, nobody wanted to join the military. They didn't want to join the Army. You know that. It was like terrible. They didn't want to join the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, or my beloved, how about that, Space Force. Do we like Space Force? It's turning out to be very important. But they tried to end that, and actually the military refused to allow that to happen. But you couldn't get people to join. And as soon as we won the election, that election took place on November 5th. From November 5th on, it was like a miracle. Now we have waiting lists for every branch of the military, waiting lists of people to get in. In other words, your jobs are wanted by everybody. And isn't that a better feeling? I'm looking at the smiling faces. We've got a lot of smiling faces. You should be smiling. Last year, the Navy and Air Force and Space Force all surpassed their recruiting goals by 5 months early, and the numbers are through the roof. In fact, it'd be a very good time to expand. You know, it's a good time to expand. But the Army did even better than the others, and you shattered your annual recruitment by almost 5 months and lots of days, but more importantly, the number and the quality of recruit has never been higher. This year, the Army is beating its recruitment goal by 116%, and I'm very proud of that. I was very embarrassed for a period of years as I watched how badly this country was run, standing outside and hearing constantly that we couldn't get people to join our great forces. We ended the scourge of political correctness in our military. We renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Think of it, we won World War I. We won everything. World War II, and everything before, during, and a little bit after, except we fought a little bit differently. We fought to be politically correct. We were a politically correct force with the presidents. But now we have a real force, and you see that with what we did in Iran with the B-2 bombers. A lot of you were involved in that. And what we did recently in Venezuela, nobody ever saw anything like that happen. A Venezuelan general who was on the site, but he moved out fast enough that he lived, because most of them didn't. But he was on the site. He said, we were totally prepared. We saw the planes coming. We saw everything coming. They're a good story.
All right, so we want to get to some breaking news that we've been keeping our eye on. This is in the Dobbins, California area near Sacramento. So that man right there hopping into the helicopter is an employee there at the new Colgate powerhouse. They're being rescued after a large pipe burst in Yuba County. 15,000 losing power there, but we've been keeping our eye on this. So here's what we have from the NBC affiliate there in Sacramento. So a pipe burst led to flooding and evacuation of the new Colgate powerhouse on Friday, according to the Yuba County Sheriff's Office. And again, you can see that helicopter rescuing what appears to be one of those employees there. So an unspecific number of employees had to be rescued from the hydroelectric powerhouse. And so thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, I should say, are without power. There are no injuries. And you can see just how vast this area is, where this powerhouse, the new Colgate powerhouse, is there in the region. It looks like our news helicopter is scoping out the area, see if they see anything else. But again, that's what we got. Again, that was a live look of, it looks like it appears to be an employee being rescued there from the new Colgate powerhouse. Again, according to the Yuba County Sheriff's Office and according to the NBC affiliate there in Sacramento, unspecified number of employees had to be rescued from the hydroelectric powerhouse. Thousands without power in the region after a pipe burst led to flooding and the evacuation of the new Colgate powerhouse. All right. So let's come back out here, and we'll continue to keep our eye on that. Any new developments, we'll bring it to you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. And we're going to take a break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. All right, so the son of longtime Charlotte-based televangelist Jim Bakker got a chance to sit down with WCNC Charlotte's Ben Thompson. He talks about ministry, also the relationship with his father. Let's go now to that full interview with Ben Thompson.
My name is Jay Bakker. Some of you may know me as Jamie Charles. My mom and dad are Jim and Tammy Faye Bakker. For the past 31 years, I've pastored Revolution Church. I've authored 3 books, and I speak and do social justice work.
So you are now living in Seattle. Bring our viewers up to speed. What in the world are you doing in Seattle?
My kids are in Seattle. And I wanted to be near my kids, and so I moved to Seattle. I've moved all over the place. I've moved from Atlanta to New York to Minneapolis to Seattle. So, yeah, my kids are here, and it just worked out that this was the best place to be.
You touched on it, but in addition to your work as pastor, you are wearing many hats, social justice activist and otherwise. Talk about some of those different roles you have right now.
Well, you know, I've got all sorts of different. I also work 3 different jobs, so I can do this one, doing pastoring. But you know, social justice is vital to me. Martin Luther King Jr. has always been kind of one of my inspirations. So is John Hume, who helped bring peace in Northern Ireland. And so working with people, helping people learn to have hard discussions and disagree well is important to me. I've done a lot with. You know, just did a couple marches against ICE and what's going on there, and just trying to help people humanize one another and see each other as, you know, equals and have tough conversations.
You mentioned your 3 side jobs. What are they?
I paint, I do lawn work, and I do after school work at my kids' school.
Very nice. Let's go back a little bit for the people watching this who know who you are and are aware of your story and have been curious about where your life has taken you. What was it like growing up in Charlotte as a baker in the 80s and 90s?
Well, 80s and 90s, the two different periods for me. It was, you know, it was strange because we were on everything, you know, and when I was a kid, my parents ran everything. I mean, I had security guards and things like that because we had death threats. And but Charlotte was home and North Carolina was home. But, you know, it was also tough because you had people like Chuck Boozer in the morning, you know, morning show where he'd always be making fun of my folks and things like that. And the Charlotte Observer was never quite kind to my folks. So that was really tough. And when we had the scandal in '87, you know, it just felt like it just didn't feel like I was welcomed in my own home. You know, it was really tough to do that. And we left for a little while, came back, I think in '89, and lived in Pineville for a while. And, you know, it was tough. I mean, there was exciting things like the Charlotte Hornets when they came to town, and we all got, you know, made me feel a little bit more like a hometown boy. But yeah, it was kind of tough growing up in Charlotte. You know, it's 2 different worlds, like pre-scandal and post-scandal. So, you know, it was very strange. It was, you know, to have like a local newspaper that hates your family, you know, makes you kind of, as a kid, you can't really separate that from the reality of just the city itself. So for a while, I was like, does everybody, you know, hate us? And later I would come to find out that that wasn't true. I mean, I still have nephews who live there and things like that. So
with the perspective of time and maturity and even just geographical distance, can you hold both truths in your head that the Charlotte Observer and local media were covering a story that deserved coverage, that while at the same time, as the son of these 2 people, it was probably unbearable at times.
Yeah, I can definitely hold two truths like that. But at the same time, recently, a few years ago, I flew down for a documentary I was working on, and I came into the airport, and the lady at the welcome station, I had to stop and ask a question. She goes, "Are you Jamie Charles?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, I just want to let you know we love you and love your family." And then, strangely enough, on the way out of the airport, I was walking into the TSA and had to give him my ID, and the guy goes, "Are you Jamie Baker? You're Jim's kid, Tammy's kid?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "We love you here." And it just was like, it felt like home again. I was like, oh, and I thought about all the good times I had with my mom in Matthews when she was living there, and going to the malls, and just, living a little bit. What was the big mall? South Park Mall. Me and my mom used to love to walk through there, and I can even remember in the early '80s her signing all those "I ran into Tammy Faye at the mall" shirts. So, I remember when there was a Woolworths in South Park Mall. So it does. You kind of learn to cherish it more, and so now when that's why I wore my Charlotte Hornets hat today. But I have kind of reclaimed it as my home again, and I'm glad to just kind of have put some of that youthful ignorance and anger behind me.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you hear Charlotte now, as an adult, what do you think now?
I get excited. I saw all the protests that were happening in Charlotte. I see what's going on there. I've got, my nephews are there. I've got some friends there. And I get excited about Charlotte. I get excited about seeing it growing and everything that's happening. I mean, when I was a teenager, I used to love to go skateboard in downtown Charlotte and have the cops chasing me all around Charlotte. And, it's exciting to see what's happening there. And so I think I'm a Charlottean. I was born in Charlotte. My parents moved there, but Charlotte is my hometown.
Yeah. When was the last time you actually lived here?
Well, I've lived there on and off a few times.
Yeah.
And I think when I was, when my mom was there, I would visit a lot. But when I was a kid, I remember, it was such a wild world because I had the bodyguards, I had security guards, my school was at Heritage USA, so it was just, it was surreal, looking back on it. I was only there till I was 11 years old. I think probably the times I remember the most are probably 88, 89, living in Pineville and just going to the movie theaters and trying to be a teenager and things like that. And I got in some trouble. I did some, I got in teenage trouble in Charlotte. Yeah. But it was good. I loved, I loved visiting my mom in Matthews, though. We had such a good time, and she loved chain restaurants. So we'd always go to the Applebee's and things like that, or the cafeterias, and people would just come up to her and say the kindest things. And, you could tell that there was, a love for her there that I didn't get to see the first time around. So that was really great. And it was, that was the last time I saw my mother was when she was in Matthews. So it was a big time for me to be there.
What do you think your mom would think of the world today?
Oh, I think she would be extremely sad. I think she would be very sad about how divided we've become. My mom was able to go into a gay bookstore and do a signing one day and then go sing in a Baptist church the next day. She walked in many different worlds and loved people in so many different places. So I think she would be extremely sad by the current state of the world and how, the things that we've allowed to divide us. And the fact that we are, considering some people more human than others, I think that would really devastate her because, she used to always say, God doesn't make any junk. Everybody deserves love. And I think this would be tough for her. I think her message would be fantastic right now. I think she would be speaking out, but I think it would be really heartbreaking for her to see. I don't think any of us could have imagined this. She passed in 2007. And, there's always been some sort of a political divide and even religious divide, but it just seems like it's just the chasm has gotten greater.
I want to talk to you more about that, but do you speak with your dad with any regularity?
We speak every couple months. You know, he's 86 years old now, and so he's slowing down a little bit. We have very different opinions on things like theology and politics, but we do try to maintain a relationship.
Do you see yourself more as Tammy Faye's son or Jim's son, or a combination of both?
I think I'm a combination of both, definitely. You know, I feel like I got some of the best of both worlds and some of the some of the crap too. You know, you get all that with your family. You know, even when I have arguments with my father about certain things, it's like, you know, I'll always tell him, I'm like, well, you taught me to love like this. You know, my dad was so busy when he was running Heritage USA. I mean, he was constantly working. You know, he did 5 shows a day, preached on Sunday. My mom did 10 shows a week, you know what I mean? And did Sunday. But my dad was also trying to make sure he was always in the building process, you know, so he was always in the buildings, driving around, making sure everything was perfect at Heritage USA. So that was
All right, so that is the interview with Jay Baker. We're going to get back to that interview, but let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant, so we want to get back to that full sit down with Jay Baker and our very own Ben Thompson. Let's take a listen to that.
With you during the trial, that was just pure chaos. But when he was in prison, you know, we had a captive audience, if you will, and we really became close over those 5 years. And I worked on his case, helped get his sentence reduced and things like that. But I got to know him, and so now in the years that he's kind of got a little bit more conservative in his older age and things like that, and we have disagreements, I just remind him, like, you and Mom are the ones who taught me to love so much and care so much and take the Bible text so seriously, you know, and that's why I got into biblical scholarship and things like that, which, you know, sometimes he struggles with that.
Let's talk about sort of your thoughts on where we are today as a country. I mean, you and I spoke offline about the ICE operations in Minneapolis and how they alarm you. How do you size up today's politics? Religion and politics combining is not a new dynamic, but a lot of people feel like it's especially corrosive right now. What do you think?
I believe it's extremely corrosive right now. Unfortunately, it's become. I feel like people are seeing their faith through a political lens rather than, their politics through a faith lens, and it's become about us and them, and it's just a bad combination, because it's for so long the church separated itself from like what you would call the sacred, and you'd have the church would be the sacred and the secular, and they kind of split, but they're really both part of each other. And then for the church just to jump into only the political ideals, and political ideals that seem so far from the messages of Jesus, like loving your neighbor, how you treat the least of these, the story of the Samaritan. And I'm really surprised how people have kind of bought into another narrative. It's almost like another gospel or something like that. So for me, it's really sad. But the church has always been kind of divided with conservative Christians and liberal Christians, and a lot of my work, what we always talk about, is arguing well or disagreeing well, respectively, and trying to bring people together. But it's very, very difficult. I mean, there's been times where faith leaders like Dr. King, did great work with bringing politics in the church, but it was faith influencing justice and peace, but peace with justice. And now it just seems like we have a politics of domination, and I don't know if the church, how the church is going to really survive this. I think it's going to be really tough for the church to come out on the other side of this, at least unscathed.
What do you blame for the current culture?
Well, I could say social media hasn't been the best, but I also feel like some of this is like the fruit of the Christian right, like Jerry Falwell's and Pat Robertson's and stuff, that they kind of the seeds that they were sowing back in the 80s of kind of, having the one party hijack faith. And, so you've got that. And, I mean, I don't think either side is innocent. I mean, I don't think Republicans or Democrats or either side are like, oh, that's the pure side, because it's always easy to scapegoat. But I just think that that's really, it's just this continued division. I mean, now people treat politics like they're sports, and people become very loyal to their party politics, almost to the point where that's, how they see their faith. And I think that just keeps us, unfortunately, very divided, and seeing things like people using cruel words towards each other, racism coming back, just it's I mean, not coming back. If you're black, you probably like that never went anywhere, but just seeing it more and more in the public eye is tough. But at the same time, maybe this push will cause us to work towards redemption and making a better world. And that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I hope others are trying to do.
Talk a little bit about you have your church, Revolution Church. You've had it for years now, decades actually.
Yeah.
What is describe the church, what it is, and what do you hope to do through it?
Well, Revolution, we started about 31 years ago. It was 94. And it was originally just to kind of reach out to outcast kids. But over time, it kind of evolved, and for me, as a message of grace and letting people know they were loved and they were accepted, period. And of course, then that grew into a little bit more social justice work. In 2005, I announced that I supported gay marriage. And of course, when I did that, I had to let my whole staff go. Revolution lost everything for a while. I moved to New York. But we've always tried to work with the least of these, with people who are, often get marginalized or considered the least of these. And it's speaking up for people and letting people know they're loved. And now that the work is trying to bring people together to disagree well, to argue well, and in the same time find that grace for themselves so they can find grace for others. There's a quote in the book of East of Eden. It says, "Now that I don't have to be perfect, I can be good." And I think that's our real message, is let's live life on life terms. And we try to bring in people who are we want a diverse community, but not just diverse of skin tone or sexuality or things like that, but diversity of thought. I want a place where people can disagree and think differently and have those conversations. So we've been in a lot of different places. Now it's completely online because what happened was I was in Minneapolis for a while running a church there at Bryant Lake Bowl. We've met in bars since probably 2003. It's a nice place to kind of be an equal footing. People don't feel so nervous. And so we've done that, but during COVID, we had to go completely online. And then when I moved here, it was still COVID, so we stayed online, and the online community has grown. And now that I work 3 jobs, it's a little bit harder to have a...
All right, so that's that full interview with Ben Thompson. He did it with Jay Baker there. All right, thank you for joining us here this evening, here on this day before Valentine's Day. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us here on WCNC Plus. You'll see me back here at 11 o'clock. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your evening. And again, thank you for watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.